What is EQ? Emotional intelligence. Something that I remember became popular in maybe like 30 years ago, 20 to 30 years ago. This is when our Western society started to become a little bit more sensitive and tolerant of neurodivergency and things like this. And for me, it all came across as very woo-woo. I never really... It always felt like pseudoscience to me. But this week, it dawned on me what emotional intelligence actually is. Or rather, that there is such a thing as emotional intelligence, but I finally was able to come up with a definition, or at least a way to measure it. A way to tangibly measure it. It was a big aha moment for me this week, and I thought I would share it with you all. So, I'm going to describe to you someone who is not emotionally intelligent, because I find that it's often easier to figure out what something is by identifying when the thing is not that, when something is not that thing. And to a large extent, what is intelligence? Well, intelligence, at least if we take the definition of artificial intelligence uses to define intelligence, is that it's a form of memory. It's a form of being able to take information and hold it and have it and be able to use that information across time. Storage, remembering. It's very flat definition of intelligence, sure. But there's something to that. There's something to our ability to remember as human beings that allows us to even have intelligence as a feature. Or to be as intelligent as we are. That our ability to retain knowledge and information and memories and gain wisdom from our experiences, all these things. The ability to hold all of that for such a long period of time, oftentimes throughout our entire life. Although in my case, my memory's very bad. I tend to, when I read a story, I forget all the characters' names, the dates, the places. But I do remember the lesson. So that's one thing that's interesting about me, is that I retain the moral, the takeaway, the general message that's being conveyed, but I forget the details. Anyway, so I did poorly in school, but I still managed to gain wisdom throughout my life. So, where was I? So memory is a big part of intelligence. Well, it turns out that emotional intelligence is the same way. And this is what happens with people who are not very emotionally intelligent. Think of any close relationship. It could be intimate partners. It could be father and daughter, father and son, mother and daughter, mother and son. Any sort of relationship, roommates, right? Roommates, any sort of relationship where there's proximity. And you run across this. If you've lived long enough, you have. And that is that if you have a misstep, or if you do something wrong, or that maybe it's not even wrong, it's just something they don't like, that person, and this is especially true about children, that person will be so triggered by that thing that in that moment they will believe that it has always been this way. And they will say things like, why do you always do that? Or why do you always say that? Even though you may have only done it once, you know. What that is exposing in this individual is that they're not emotionally intelligent. If they can only perceive emotionally what happens in the moment with no context of what's happened in the past, that is an emotionally retarded person. On the other hand, an emotionally intelligent person might experience something that bothers them from a friend, a partner, a love interest, and be able to experience it within the context of everything that's happened throughout that entire relationship, and not blow it out completely out of proportion. This, to me, is what we should be using the words emotional intelligence to describe. This is actual emotional intelligence. And it's bothered me for the last 3 decades that we've been using this term EQ to essentially describe people, I think, who are mostly emotionally not intelligent, who are emotionally delayed, and or people who are kind of developmentally stuck. Grown children, people who are adults and yet still are overreactive and can't tolerate taking responsibility. It dawned on me, this realization, because I'm having one of those do-overs in life, and I had kids with my first wife, and I have a daughter now with my second partner, whom is an ex-partner. And so I've been doing a do-over, but this time as a single dad, and getting to experience a child with much more awareness, much more consciousness on my part. My first kids I had in my early 20s. This child I had in my early 40s. So it's a completely different experience, and I get to see things that I didn't see before. And the emotional stupidity of children is kind of a match with their intellectual lack of development. So I think what happens in society is that we focus much more on the intellectual development than on the emotional development. And so we develop these much more intellectually sophisticated creatures than we develop emotionally sophisticated creatures. And I think most people have terrible emotional intelligence. And it's dawning on me how unaddressed this is. And time and again, society, industry, science always comes up with these terms that may be good terms to come up with, but defines them completely opposite to what they're meant to define. And it's almost like it derails us. It's like it finds a truth. It's almost like the devil is in charge. And he says, oh, they're about to learn something really valuable, something really important. How can I derail them so that they don't actually learn that thing? It takes the truth and it perverts it and turns it into something opposite or different than what it actually is. And sabotaging our ability to grow and develop as a species. There's this devil. There's this demon that seems to be completely in charge of civilization. So here I am doing my job as a philosopher, calling it like it is, and hopefully removing a veil. which I think is this one's a pretty big one. This is a pretty big elephant in the room. So, let me know what you think. Are you emotionally intelligent? Have you known people who are emotionally dumb but consider themselves to be emotionally smart? A lot of those. I've met a lot of those. Remember that being sensitive does not make you emotionally smart. Overly sensitive people don't have high EQ. They're usually simply just fragile, simply delicate, and stuck, developmentally stuck. They're in a state of arrested development, most likely. But to be emotionally intelligent, emotionally smart, means that you can experience feelings, even strong feelings, but not have them override your memory and the context of what has been. That is an emotionally intelligent and developed individual. So, I hope you found that enlightening. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching.